ni hao, xin zhao, and all the other greetings that may or may not exist from Shanghai, China. Today is Sunday, which means, at least for me, that it's long run day. And as I've only got a few more chances to run my old faithful Sunday route, I thought I'd take the camera along for another guided tour. And while we're at it, I can fill everyone in on where I am in my training and what my plans are for the year ahead. But first, let's go get some breakfast. I can't authoritatively say that these are the best baozi in all of Shanghai. After all, it's a very large city, but it certainly is the best baozi that I've ever had. And it happens to come from the closest baozi shop to where we live. Anyway, just let me finish this off, and then we can get going. I guess I've been running on and off for about 10 years now. For the first few years, that was mostly just short treadmill runs at the gym a few times a week. I only really started running on a regular basis after I moved to Guilin, where I used to run laps around the track at the university on an evening, because I didn't really have a lot else to do. But then I met my wife, and that kind of stopped as I suddenly had a social life. I then picked up running again after we moved to Fuzhou, and I started working as a translator, just as a means to relieve stress more than anything. At the time, we were renting an apartment not far from the Min River, and there were a couple of parks on either side of the riverbank that I used to run up and down. In those days, I probably didn't run anything more than about 10 kilometers a day, maybe about 3 or 4 days a week. Back in December 2020, when I was coming up with New Year's resolutions for the year ahead, back when I still did that, I did what I think a lot of people do and say, you know what, this year I'm going to run a marathon. So I called up my dad and asked him if he had any old marathon training plans lying around from the days when he was an avid runner. And he sent me his old plan over, which he'd been tweaking through the years. I made a few tweaks of my own, and I haven't really looked back since. At the end of last year, I came down with something that felt like, but according to the test, wasn't COVID, which put me out of action for about a month or so. This is remarkably similar to what happened the year before, when I started the year recovering from actual COVID. And just like the year before, it took me a long time to get back to fitness. So I didn't start running this year until mid to late January, and even then, I wasn't running huge volumes. It was a real struggle at first, and it took me a while to get back to full fitness. But at some point in March, I felt like I underwent a bit of a transformation, and I suddenly started feeling fitter, feeling faster, and feeling like I had a lot more energy. And now, in May, I'm already hitting higher mileage than I've ever hit at this point of the year so far. I'm not quite back to full fitness. I haven't really been doing any speed work. My threshold runs have been a bit sporadic, and I don't feel like the overall endurance is there. But I've definitely got back to a very good base from working up some fitness. The only problem now is we're about to run into Chinese summer, and that's a bit of a killer when you're trying to do high mileage or any sort of intense training, because it is hot and it is sweaty and it drains the energy like nothing I've ever experienced. This year's a bit of a transitional year for us, what with us planning to up sticks and move to Vietnam. So there's going to be a lot of upheaval and a lot of things going on in our lives that are probably going to push running to the back burner. So my main goal for this year is really just to put in some consistent mileage. If I can put in a good run of 100-kilometer weeks in and around life and keep that going until the end of the year, then I'll be more than happy with how 2024 has turned out. Especially because summer here puts a dent in any kind of high mileage training hopes, and once we move to Vietnam, that's only going to get worse. That said, I am still planning to go through marathon training during the summer, mainly because it gives me a bit of structure so I don't have to think about things too much, mainly because I really enjoy it, and mainly because I still do want to run a marathon this year. I'm just not going to be going for a specific time. And if you've seen the first few videos that I've made, you'll know that this year I've gotten into trail running for the first time ever. And so my current hope is to maybe try and do a trail ultra once we get to winter. That way I can try something new and exciting, and I can still get my marathon out of the way without having to worry about times or anything like that. Having just said all that about time, I would still quite like to set at least one PB this year, just to keep that year-on-year sense of momentum flowing. So to sum up my goals, I just really want to put in consistent mileage, not have any 2-week, 3-week, month-long periods where I'm out due to illness or quarantine or whatever other happens in my life that sort of affected the last couple of years. I want to run a trail marathon, and I want to finally break 90 minutes for the half marathon. Alright, this is the turnaround point. Long run route's a nice out and back. It's about 12.5k here, about 12.5k back. A nice 25k route. Not too short, not too long. Just gonna stop here for a sec. Can't really be bothered to run and talk at the same time anymore. So the final thing I wanted to say is, I guess now that I'm between jobs and I'm not working towards any specific race, it leaves me free to go out and try and find more interesting places to run that I can maybe record and add to the vlog. And one thing that I think might spice up my daily running a little bit is going and looking for some interesting Strava courses, maybe trying to run some course records. It would be a nice little challenge, something to head for, something that's maybe a bit easier to plan for than, say, a race or an event. Something where there should be lots of opportunities within the city itself, so I don't have to go traveling, which obviously isn't the easiest thing to do when you've got a kid at home to look after. And I'll be looking to try and find sort of interesting courses in parks and on scenic routes, you know, places where we can take Felix along and he can get out and about and explore and play and adventure while I'm trying to hit some running goals. All right, that's it for in-person me out on the run. Maybe voiceover me will have some more to say. For now, I'm just gonna use what little battery I have left to try and get some more footage of this beautiful park. That's like hell.